And we're live, at least in theory. Welcome, dear viewer, to the this week's edition of our HubSpot Updates. It's me again and Richard from Real Inbound, co-directors, and young James, our favourite HubSpot partner who we work with a lot, running his own company called HubStart. Hopefully you'll be familiar with us by now and the inanity that we spout on a regular basis. So the Ferrari has died down, guys. Inbound is long gone, but it looks like HubSpot have not abated. The updates are still flying in thick and fast. Let's have another quick roundup. I've looked through them this week, and we are struggling to stream on LinkedIn. Do you want to end the broadcast or continue without Tony Dowling? Well, we don't really want to continue without Tony Dowling. That may not work. And that's us probably back, I would think. Sorry about any confusion, dear viewer. We might have been there and then we weren't, but we might not have been there. We're a bit like Schrodinger's webinar. We don't know whether we're alive or dead until you open us. Anyway, now we're here and we're getting on with our weekly updates. So let me just share our screen. I'm going to have to add you again, Rich, and change your face and everything. Not change your face. I don't need to change your face. I need to change your border. That's what I need to do. There you go. So you fit in with the rest of us. This is all going really well so far. I tell you what we'll do, guys.
Machine gun.
Because there's so many bitty and crappy little updates, and we're on a bit of a restricted time this time. Let's pick the ones that we want to talk about and focus in on those. So, James, do you want to go first? Which ones? What do you think is worth having a big dig into?
I would say the first one that caught my attention was the connecting HubSpot tickets to Microsoft Teams and syncing replies. So,
is that we know, on page 2?
No, it's at the top of page 1, third one down.
I'm sorry. Yes, Teams. We all love Teams.
yes. I mean, this one in a nutshell seems to be about being able to use Teams as your environment for managing and actioning your HubSpot tickets. So the Teams integration historically used to be pretty rubbish, but it has seen quite a few different updates. First bringing in the meeting links tool, and now taking it even further to the point where you can now manage your tickets through Teams in various ways.
It is. It's a bit of a. I always find it quite interesting. The question whether you work in HubSpot or you work in one of the integrated systems, like Teams. And if you're doing a lot of work, if you're not a seller particularly, I suppose, it makes sense that you'll work in Outlook and in Teams. You may do your calls, video calls in Teams and things like that. So it's clearly a benefit in terms of the workflow, in terms of making things easier for you to do. And this is a particularly good one, you're right, because up until now, the Teams integration has been a bit boring. There's not been an awful lot going on with it. But I do wonder whether, you should just keep people in HubSpot, if only from an adoption perspective, if nothing else, is it easier to learn it when you make people stay there rather than just syncing? But then on the other side, obviously, it makes their jobs easier, streamlines their workflows, makes them more effective. So there's a lot of swings and roundabouts on it, I would think. Nice spot, though. Rich?
Yeah.
Anything that stands out for you on this first page, ideally?
No, not really. I mean, that's the thing. There are some good stuff on there, but the content scaffolding sounds quite interesting, but it's quite niche because of the subs that it's involved with. So it's just a way of making templates using AI and telling the AI where to go. And I don't mean to do one. I mean to go to a certain place and add content rather than just add it in an unrestricted block. So yeah, that's quite cool.
Yeah. I'd,
Yeah.
I'd point out the analyze tabs for web pages and landing pages now. Again, it's one of those, we've talked about this before, that you sort of expect to be in HubSpot. That wasn't there. Now it's there. It looked like it's always been there. But it's really useful just to have that additional insight there, right there in the page, rather than having to go into the analytics or anything. So I thought that would be one I would like to call out there.
Yeah.
James,
And last one from me on this one would be the meeting rotations in the scheduling pages, having a waiting option. I think that's going to be more tangible one that a lot of people on the sales side are going to find useful. If you've got you've got new account executives coming in, be able to give them a lower weighting on the number of leads that they receive until they get more comfortable. I see plenty of use cases around that, simple but important ones.
Yeah. No, I like that. Good, nice, practical. It says low impact, but it would certainly be high impact in terms of managing the activities in your team. Okay, over to page 2. What are we looking at? Anything good? Content recommendations for inbound calls. No, I like that. I'm a bit of a customer success agent on the quiet. I like it when HubSpot does customer service things, customer success things. And this is a nice one. So if somebody has rung in, if you're using HubSpot for your inbound calls, which not everybody probably is doing, maybe you're not even aware that you can. You can integrate your VoIP supplier like Aircall and handle it. Use HubSpot as your IVR, as your switchboard and everything else. But you could just use HubSpot now. You can just make outbound calls and receive inbound calls, be you a salesperson or a customer service person. So this is really good if you are a customer service rep and you've got a call coming in. This makes it very easy to be able to pass a knowledge base article or a web page or something relevant directly to the person that needs it. Obviously, then solving their problem or helping solve their problem very, very quickly. James, any others? We've got another Service Hub boost to the IVR there. I just mentioned the telephone trees, interactive voice routing. I think that is.
That's pretty cool. Like looking at the screenshot, if you scroll down to the screenshots on that one, it's quite interesting because it's been structured to be controlled based in the same way as you would build a normal workflow in HubSpot, which I thought was quite smart from a UI perspective. And obviously, people want to be more embedded into HubSpot, not have to use a third-party VoIP solution. Then this is a really important feature, having your IVRs for inbound calls. So I'm glad to see that HubSpot's built this in what seems to be a very intuitive way, more so than all other systems I've used in the past. Yeah,
building on what it's already good at, this kind of visual editing is really nice. If you've built IVRs in other call handling, in other VoIP systems, you'll know the approach, the user interface is varies from the sublime to the ridiculous. There are good ones out there, but this looks really nice. Rich, you've got one on this page you'd like to pick up?
Do you know what? I'm actually struggling to read them on your screen, and my screen's actually showing different ones to yours as
usual.
Yeah, not too useful. But I mean, look, there's a couple of really small little bits in here that are quite useful. I can't believe that we couldn't do this before, but convert active to static lists.
Yes, my eye fell on this. Interesting one.
Yeah, it's a timed one, so you choose the date when you want it to become static. Trying to think of a use case when that would be needed. Sounds like it could be helpful for some certain things.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same. Sounds like it could be good. Yeah. I was thinking about an absolute use case. Like, I'm not quite sure.
No. What it says, that gives the use case here, because I can read it, it's a bit easier. It's my screen, I suppose. That once you no longer need a list to be active, you can flick it over to be static, right? So if you're running campaigns and you're adding to lists as filter criteria are met and so on, you'll eventually run out of active lists. So you'll have the ability just to flick that active list, keep the data. You don't have to get rid of it as a list. You flick it over to become a static list. So I'm assuming it's something about headroom within the list limits, which sounds quite clever.
The list, there's a fairly generous list limit, I think, with no subscriptions. But nevertheless, if you use HubSpot for a long time, those limits do sometimes come into play quite bigly.
Yeah, quite bigly. I love it. Okay, what are we going to pick up? Anything else? Oh, it's an API one, James. You do like an API, I know.
Which one's that? Content personalization
API.
So what is this? It allows developers to fetch data about a user, such as their name, user agent IP, etc. It can be used to put a user's name on the page or build functionality equivalent to smart content. Oh, well, that is very interesting, isn't it?
Well, I knew you'd be interested. Explain it.
It's basically saying that you can pull this kind of analytics data out of HubSpot and use it to customize content on a non-HubSpot website, so that the user sees something personal displayed just for them, based on data that's getting pulled from the CRM, into your website.
Wow, that is pretty impressive. It's enterprise level. Yeah, Content Hub Pro, as well, but it's Customer Platform Enterprise and Content Hub Enterprise feature. So yeah, very powerful. Okay, let's jump over to the last one. Oh, we've only got a couple. Well, as the salesperson of the group, I note that this call in HubSpot is just getting better and better. It's becoming increasingly powerful to give it a contact search in the outbound dialer. So, put simply, what that means is you don't have to dial the number directly, like you can see from the thing, as you would previously. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can just put the name in, and it'll find that person's number. It wasn't possible before. It was a bit clunky to do this. Outbound calling, because you had to go to the record. Obviously you could use the leads list, but you still go to the record, and then click on call. So that's a really nice one. It's quite a big impact. And now, think about that. We've talked about, this. You've got the IVR stuff, you've got the inbound stuff, you've got the links to customer help desk, inbound calling. It's becoming quite a compelling function. HubSpot calling, interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling more confident about recommending HubSpot calling off the back of this, because it does seem like it's going in the right direction, where it can be a real competitor to other tools, with the added benefit of not having to live across different tools, because we all know that integrations between HubSpot and a VoIP system in terms of data duplication and creating loads of random records with just a phone number on them and things like that can be such a pain when you're integrating your VoIP system. So let's go in the right direction.
Okay, cool. I just want to let's go back. We'll stop sharing and go back to the proper screen, as it were. That would require me to actually stop sharing. Sorry. I just had a question. Something I thought was very interesting came out the back of Inbound, and sort of rumbled on a little bit. We kind of touched on it here, by saying, by cutting through some of the dross there, or not dross, perhaps that's not fair, but cutting through some of the lesser important things and just focusing on the big important things. The question is HubSpot releasing too many updates? Simple question. What are your answers?
I've got an opinion on some of this stuff. So, if features are incremental, they're great. Keep them rolling. Thank you very much. If they're bringing the tools in line with the kind of maybe the sort of at least the sort of middling ground of the best spot, sort of third party tools that just do whatever it is, calling or whatever, or social media tools. If it's raising those standards, the one thing that bugs me a lot, mainly because I have to update a load of stuff off the back of it, is if we start adding different changes in the menus and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, if you're going to introduce something completely new, you have to have a new menu and you have to have a new way of exploring it. And I completely understand that. And if we need to add things on into different menus as well, that's cool. It's kind of like the complete, if you take all the cards and then start sort of shuffling them out, and then all of a sudden the menus become completely different. That's that I really dislike. And I think that's a consequence of having too many updates. But I think if they're incremental, they're improving the tools as they stand, then I'm all for continuous deployment. Maybe there could be a case for some things where it'd be better to do a tranche of tools in one area. But I know that HubSpot tries to do that with the way that they run the sort of beta testing and stuff like that, and the kind of doing things in programs. Like they did a big thing on forms recently, and that upgraded forms. We got multi-part forms. We got all sorts of different logic, and those things are great. But sometimes maybe there'd be a call or a case for, instead of doing it like drip, 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 maybe doing a package. God knows I use the word package, but anyway.
The thing that amazes me, James, I'll ask you the same question in a minute, but it's how many people miss them. It absolutely blows my mind. We're all HubSpot geeks, and we go so far as to do a video every week on what's come out. And there's lots of people who do that. And if you're on LinkedIn and in our little ecosystem, people rave about, have you seen this update? And have you seen that one? It's almost like a prize for the for the least well-known update that has the most impact. There's plenty of those going on. But we talk to a client, and I usually say, "Did you see this update? Did you see that update?" Nope. They're not even looking at the product update pages. And I know there's a new beta out to actually show you updates that pertain particularly to you, which arguably is going to be quite useful. But I think you still have to go to the product update page, So yeah, that's what worries me about it. Not only do you have to try and keep up with it, which is hard enough, and as you say, Rich, every time they drop a little hand grenade in the HubSpot pond, there's ripples everywhere. That mean we have to update lots of our documentation and so on. But what's is there a point to it? Is there a point? James, are HubSpot doing too many updates?
I would definitely say no. I mean, there's still plenty of things that I've raised within the forums that haven't been got to about a year later. So, if anything, on my side, they could do even more.
They should be doing them faster, more often. Bigger.
Exactly, yeah. Thousands of updates every single day would be my preferred option. But I mean, before we started doing this little podcast, it did annoy me how sometimes something that's not been possible for a very long time, I would go speak to a client about it, framed in my mind of that limitation from confirmation bias over several years, and then turn around the next day and find out that it has suddenly become a feature with me not knowing. So it definitely is something that we need to keep on top of, just across the board. But for an actual client, it would be nice seeing those more tailored. Doing on the product updates page is fine, but it'd be nice for, say, something for super admins, let's say, where when a super admin logs in, it displays sort of an AI-driven set of recommendations of things that, based on what they've configured in the portal so far, they think could be relevant to them, so that they can be like, oh yeah, actually, yeah, let me think about this over the course of this week and see how I can benefit from this. Particularly things that are very functional, like the meeting rotation thing.
It's another. I'm doing a call tomorrow with Databox, another one of our partners. Although they're not as close to us as James is, but we work with Databox. They in effect they surface data out of HubSpot, right? That's what they do. But they run a lot of surveys which are very interesting, and they've recently run a survey on how people use HubSpot, and it's pretty clear from the survey that the vast majority of people use the big tools. They use email and social, they use pipelines. And as you run through all the other product features, I shared it on LinkedIn the other day, actually. As you run through all the other product features, the usage just goes down and down and down and down because people just don't even know about them. They don't even know about them. I just think it's a really interesting area. It must be an issue for HubSpot. As you say, James, is updates generally great, but people get overwhelmed. They miss them anyway. But the product has to maintain parity, if not leadership, technical parity, if not leadership. It has to be able to do things that other platforms can't do. Interesting issue. Maybe means that the show is more important than we thought.
maybe
for our dear viewer. I hope you're continuing to get value. If you've been affected by any of the issues raised in this podcast, let us know. Drop us a comment. Put a DM to us on LinkedIn, and we'll add it into our next chat. But thanks again for joining this curtailed version. And if you're watching it after the fact, it'll be seamless because I'll edit all the crap out. But if you were watching it on the lives and they failed, apologies. We'll try and get it right next time. Thank you very much, everybody, and speak to you again soon.
All right.